Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is HowFast. I'm sure some of you have probably been wondering, I don't know how long it's been. It's been over a year since you've seen a body on this car. It's probably time we start bringing body panels back in. I'm looking at the next parts that we need to cover up here, and as far as like that sheet aluminum that we have, we need to do like over fenders for the back here, so when we're doing burnouts, we don't shower the passenger and the driver in melted rubber, right? So we're gonna have to build some sort of an over fender here. Now there was something here originally, but it was like boxed off and kind of weird. You can see the other side there, there's still a wall in there. So what I want to do is I kind of want to mimic, that side and just build like a cap over top of this side and close it off just as the driver's side is. So I'm going to draw up some shapes. We're going to cut them out of aluminum. We're going to put them in place. After we do that, there's only one last piece, which is this back open area here that we can literally, again, it's going to be just one. I'm hoping to cut one piece, maybe two, I don't know, hopefully one piece of aluminum. We can lay that down in there, and then everything is closed off. The whole cockpit will be closed off, other than this part right here, which I'm going to, once the transmission, and we know everything is in there good, this will be the final piece to the puzzle and closing in the cockpit. But over the tires here, that needs to be done. In the back here, that needs to be done. So I'm going to get started on that right now, and then later on today we'll talk about Dodgey's engine's first fire. So I'm going to get started right now, and why don't you guys stick around and see how it turns out. You know, guys, it's really exciting to see these body panels back on the car. I mean, I know they're loose fit, they're just kind of like dangling on there, and there's no real support underneath them. They're not straight by any means right now, but God, it's so good to see him coming back into shape and like back to being a car again instead of just a shell, looking like some Wish version of Cletus McFarlane's Leroy. Now, he's actually starting to look like a NASCAR, CAS car, which is perfectly fine by me. Beautiful look here. They're dirty, they're misaligned, they're loosely hung, but he's coming back together piece by piece. So now that I have this in relatively the right spot of where I want it, I'm going to now take some measurements off the inside here and just make sure that I'm making this over fender the right width. And then we're just going to mimic the other side here by building a wall and a wall here, here, put it in. Let's get started. admittedly, I was going to just take this thing. I thought, you know, the last couple times I've made something out of aluminum, I make it out of cardboard. It works well. I cut it out of aluminum. It works great. Like, you know, lately, things have been working out really great. I was going to just cut that big hunk of aluminum and thought, you know, I'm going to cut that and it's going to be fine. I can picture it already. But I decided to stop and back up, make it out of cardboard first, and it's a good thing I did, because what I had planned is a little too wide. So I'm going to shrink this down by probably about a ½ inch, and then we will cut it out of aluminum, and then we can start bending it and see how it fits in there. We might have to still cut more. These pieces of aluminum actually hold the body panels kind of in place, so they're kind of important how thick and wide you make them. Not that there isn't a bunch. There's a bunch of these little like standoffs as well, but without that, you know, this is what we have, this piece of metal against the back of the fiberglass. So I'm going to cut a ½ inch off that piece of cardboard, and then we'll map it out on the aluminum and cut that out. I just threw a couple like nut and bolt, like 7/16 nut and bolts in here so that I can throw it up and mock it up real quick before I go putting hundreds of rivets in it. Save some time. Okay, so you can see what we got here so far. We've got the over fender. It's in. Everything seems to be kind of like looking pretty straight down the body. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming down here where it kind of pokes out the bottom. But I'm not going to do that till later. We're going to trim that after, because I want to make sure that, because there's a side skirt here that might actually need some sort of support, and if it needs to be there, it'll be there. So what's left is this void. What we're going to do is we're going to now cut another piece of cardboard to fit that void. We'll cut that out of aluminum and we'll put that in, and then we will use some of that aluminum L angle that we have, and we will attach those two pieces together and make a nice solid base. So once those two are together, that'll make it really solid. So let's keep going. Okay, so I decided to, when I put it in there after I cut this piece off, I decided to remeasure it and stuck it back in, and I thought I wanted to add an extra couple inches of material here. So I taped that on. So I'm pretty happy with the shape. Not entirely happy, but happy enough that I'm going to try and cut this one out and see how it fits. If it doesn't feel right, then I won't put it in. But if it's close enough, it's gonna go. So I'm going to cut this out right now. Okay, so I got that piece tagged in there. You can see there's a little gap at the top, maybe 1/4 inch at the most, at the very most, maybe 3/16. So I'm going to hit that a couple times with a hammer, kind of flatten that out. I'm going to use some of that L angle we have and attach it to attach the two, and also they're going to make a bracket for the bottom here where it ties in. After that, we're done on this side. A little bit of L angle, and here's where we're at. So now this thing is solid in there. I think I could, if I wanted to, I might be able to even sit on this thing. It's definitely strong. doing what it's supposed to do. It's about the right width. So I think this side is done. Obviously it needs a coat of paint, and we'll seal up all the cracks and everything with some tape and some seam sealer eventually, but that'll be before we paint everything on the inside here. You know, we're going to seam seal everything around the cockpit so that it's all sealed off. So we got one more side over here, and this side should be quite a bit easier. So let's go over there and take a look at that. Alright, so as you know, this car is not symmetrical by any means. It was never meant to be. It was never built to be symmetrical. So you can see there's slight differences between these two sides. For example, this bar here is bent here. You can see it's coped here and cut into this bar. Over there, it's a straight 90. This side over here, where it was originally, is very close to where it is now. It goes up into this back wall. But this side, instead of dying here, where the other side goes, it's quite a bit lower and then dips down and went straight across here. So what I'm going to do is we're making kind of like a mix of both, right? So this one I've now rounded off. It's going to kind of look similar to this. We're going to bring this one, it's going to come up, we're just going to build the top, and it's going to come up to here, and we're going to tie in up here to this bulkhead here. So we're just going to kind of like forget this is here beneath it. And we're going to go from here to here. So let's get started. You know what, instead of me putting you guys through all the musical interlude and the banging and the grinding and the cutting, you guys have seen that 100 times. Why don't we do the old YouTube snap for this one so you guys can just see the beautiful finished product. So 1, 2, there it is, all put together. Now, you know, it's not painted, but you guys get the idea. It keeps the tire from ending up on me. So that makes sense, right? Look at matching, both sides. Looks nice, and I mean, they're not identical by any means, but it definitely makes me feel a bit more. There's a side of me that's a lot happier now with these things resembling each other now. So with that, we've now closed off the back end of the cockpit, but there's obviously still this piece left. So I'm going to leave that one till next week. You know, it's getting kind of late in the day, and I got to start editing so I can get this video out for you guys tomorrow. So I'm going to start working on that one throughout the week. Now what I promised you guys was an update on Dodgey's first startup. I think you guys have waited long enough for that. I mean, it's been 2 years since we bought that engine, and it's been at least 6 months or more since it was built. So, you know, obviously with starting the motor, there's a lot of things that have to be considered. One of the major things we have to consider is the engine management, and that's a major purchase. So a Holley Terminator X, which is ideally the best, from what I can read, is the best engine management system for me, for what I need it to do, because it will self-learn and will get this car up and running without me having to know how to be a tuner. The other things we have to think about are fuel, spark, and air. And we have the intake, I have to get some injectors, and I have to get the engine management system. So with the brakes, I'm going to put on order the engine management system, and I'm going to begin looking for some fuel injectors that are going to be sufficient for what we need them to do. So you guys can look forward to seeing and hearing Dodgey's engine running this summer. It's exciting news. Now, as far as how fast trivia goes, last week's question was a difficult one, and I told you guys no one was going to get it unless they guessed, and it looks as though that was the case. The question from last week was, in which country is it illegal to splash pedestrians by driving your car through a puddle? The options were A, China, B, Japan, C, Malaysia, or D, Indonesia. The correct answer was B, Japan, and Kristen got the correct answer. Kristen, I pinned your answer. Congratulations. So really, some really wild laws and rules over in these countries on the other side of the world. So I can only imagine there's some instance that happened that was the reason for that law coming to be. This week's How Fast Trivia question. Which was the first American city to feature traffic lights? Was it A, New York, B, Detroit, C, Los Angeles, or D, Philadelphia? I look forward to hearing you guys' answers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'll catch up with you guys next time. Find out how fast we can make this car go.